So you've heard of an impoverished workforce. Well, for some of us, we are still there, working 9 to 5 to stay alive, and that is a sad truth. There have been many activists who have fought diligently to help those families come over the minimum wage line. These low-income families are breaking their backs to earn a piece of the American dream. And without people like Emma Tinayuka, they would still be in far worse working conditions. Many minority workers are put in substandard working conditions and don't have much hope in succeeding. This is quite sad and only breeds further division between the middle and lower classes. Emma was not only an activist, but a labor union organizer and a teacher. Her acts helped shape Social Security, disability benefits, minimum wage guidelines, and equal opportunity for education. At 16, she was already determined to challenge injustice and became involved in community organization. She was jailed and threatened numerous times. In a time when Mexican Americans nor women were expected to speak out, she spoke out fearlessly and was soon known as a fiery orator and a brilliant organizer. Her first arrest was for joining a picket line against Vicker Cigar Company. She was only a teenager then and could already see the injustice being done to the workers in her community of San Antonio. She was one of 11 children in her family and understood firsthand the value and power of money for a family needing to survive, and she was willing to stand in the gap for those who could not stand up for themselves. Emma Tinayuka was an instrumental tool in one of the most famous conflicts of Texas labor history. In 1938, pecan shellers strike at Southern Pecan Shelling Company. During the strike, thousands of workers from over 130 plants protested a wage reduction of 1 cent per pound of pecans shelled. Mexicana and Chicana workers who picketed were gassed, arrested, and jailed. The strike ended after 37 days when the pecan operators finally agreed to arbitration. In October of the same year, the National Labor Relations Act raised wages to 25 cents an hour. During this strike, a riot broke out. Cars and buildings were set on fire, and there were fighting in the streets. Emma was ushered away from the auditorium where she was speaking for fear to being lynched in the streets. The mayor at that time was taken out and burned alive for allowing her freedom of speech. Although faced with physical pain and law enforcement, she still stood up for what she thought was right. These pecan workers may have still struck without Emma, but without the community standing in unity, nothing would have changed. With her actions, these people were able to have a raise in income and to come to agreeable terms with the employers that both sides of the fence could live with. Emma helped organize 2 international unions, both of which were purposed better work environment for female garment makers. This was a brilliant movement in the industry because back then it was mostly women and they were not given the same equal rights as men, and they were vastly underpaid. She was also involved with the Workers' Alliance of America and the Women's League for Peace and Freedom. She once said, "I was arrested a number of times, but I did not think in terms of fear. I only acted in terms of justice." Throughout her life, Emma was a vocal advocate for freedom of speech, workers' rights, and a critic of many government policies. She was a dedicated student of political issues and processes. She expressed her belief in greater economic equality for citizens over expensive government relief programs. This concept is amazing. There are many people who prefer a hand up rather than another hand out. She left San Antonio for a few years where she pursued a degree in teaching at the San Francisco University. And in 1952, she returned to San Antonio where she became a reading teacher for migrant students. She was passionate about giving the underdog the opportunity for growth and success. The United States wasn't the most friendly to Mexican Americans in the 1930s, and by far the women of this descent were paid the least. Emma's story serves as a model for young and old alike. It speaks of courage, compassion, and the role everyone can play in making the world more fair. Not only did she see the wrong all around her, she did things to act to change them. She was just a kid who became a leader, a teacher, and an inspiration. I think we could all take a page from Emma and help where it is needed, no matter what the risk. Because isn't that what truly makes us great? That never ceasing need to seek out justice for those who are brutalized, for those who are made to feel nothing, and those who deserve, above all, to know hope.